A very good day to all. My name is Mr. Roshan Coelho from the Department of Hospitality Science, Milagros College, Mangalore. So today the topic that I'll be dealing with is components of ecosystem. So in our ecosystem, which are the varieties of things or the components that make up the term called as the ecosystem. So mainly the ecosystem is divided into two types. We have the biotic components and we have the abiotic components. Now under biotic components we have producers, consumers, decomposers, and under consumers we have primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Now, what do you mean by biotic components? Anything that has life in it is termed as biotic components. And under abiotic components, we have, for example, we have here air, water, wind, soil, temperature, rainfall, pH. So all these things are termed as abiotic components, meaning they don't have life, but yet they play a very crucial role in balancing the ecosystem. So now we are going to go through each and every subtopic of the ecosystem. Now, the first one we have the abiotic components. Now, basically, it is a non-living or any. It may be a chemical or a physical component such as water, air, nutrients, or in soil, as well as solar energy and any types of energy that we have. Now we have physical and chemical factors that influence living organisms in land, terrestrial, that is, in the land as well as in the aquatic zone as well. So now, as I said, these abiotic factors also play a very major role in balancing the population of the biotic components as well. So now these abiotic components are mainly divided into two types. We have the climatic factors and we have the edaphic factors. Now, what do you mean by climatic factors? That is basically we have rain, temperature, light, wind. So these make up the climate condition. Then we have edaphic factors where it comes to the soil, the pH of a particular component or maybe a particular place. We have the topography, that is what kind of land system we have. Then we have minerals, etc. Then we have the biotic factors, where we have all things that are basically living things, which will directly or indirectly affect the ecosystem. So we have, the ecosystem, this ecosystem that is biotic system made up of biological components, that is living as well as dead plants, animals, and microorganisms. So now these biotic factors are mainly divided into three types. We said we learned the three types, that is producers, then we have secondary consumers. So these all are the various subcomponents of the biotic factors. Now we're going to learn the major biological components of the ecosystem, in which we have the first one, that is producers, also known as autotrophs or self-feeders, meaning they make their own food and consume it. They do not depend on any others. That is why they're called as self-feeders. Now, who are those self-feeders? Basically, they are plants. The plants make up their own food using the process called as photosynthesis, where they absorb the sunlight and they make their own foods. So that is why they are called as autotrophs or producers. They do not rely on anyone else. They make their own food. So next we have the consumers known as heterotrophs, that is other feeders. Now these heterotrophs basically depend on the primary consumers, that is basically the producers. So who are those? We first one, we have a primary consumers are those that eat producers. Basically they eat plants. And second we have, and also known as herbivores. They're termed as herbivores because they eat only plants. Then we have secondary consumers also known as carnivores. That is they eat animals, especially these eat we can take an example of a snake eating a frog, or a frog eating a fly. So these are called as secondary consumers. Then we have tertiary consumers. Basically these are large carnivores. Once again they feed on secondary consumers, but the main food, that is reliability, is on the primary consumers, because they may not suffice from the secondary consumers. That is why they mainly target the primary consumers. For example, deer, or let's say any other animals that eat food. So that is why they target these particular primary consumers. Then we have we have quaternary consumers. These are the largest carnivores that feed on tertiary consumers. They are not eaten by any animals. Basically, these quaternary consumers refer to not any other animals, but we human beings as well. We are the topmost, alpha predators on the food chain. That is why we are termed as quaternary consumers as well. Then we have omnivorous, that is a mixed diet of both plants and animals. A particular animal that feeds on both plant as well as on the animal. That is by the term we have omnivorous consumers. Then we have another major player here, that is the decomposers. Now these may not be visible to our eyes, but these play a major role in balancing the ecosystem. They are basically bacteria and fungi that eats all the dead particles in the environment. Basically anything. Maybe you might see some food rotting, but once that food gets starting to rot, you may see that it has some kind of mold or a fungi or a white substance on it. That is basically the bacteria that is cleaning off that particular degradable item. So now these decomposers only target the decomposing, that is, which is biologically biodegrading in nature. It targets only specific things. So this was all about the components of ecosystem. These are the major players in the ecosystem. Further on, we'll make a study of it in the upcoming chapter. Thank you.